Aliens. The silent arrival. The night sky had always been a canvas of quiet beauty for humanity, endless stars scattered across the dark ocean above, each one a silent witness to our struggles, victories, and fleeting existence. But on the night of September 14th, 2042, the sky changed. Not in a poetic sense, not in the way dreamers claim to see angels or lost lovers in constellations. It changed in the most literal way possible. The stars moved. At first, the astronomers thought it was an error in their telescopes, some glitch in the calibration of orbital observatories. But as the hours passed, the truth became undeniable. Constellations that had been fixed for thousands of years shifted by degrees, as if unseen hands were pushing them across the heavens. The world watched, breath held, as one star in particular grew brighter, closer, until it wasn't a star at all. It was a vessel. Massive, silent, and blacker than the void it emerged from, the alien craft appeared above Earth without a word, without a declaration, without even the courtesy of a warning. It simply existed there, blocking out half the night sky like a wound across the universe. Governments scrambled, militaries went on alert, news channels screamed panic, but the ship did nothing. No beams of destruction. No armies of invaders. No demand for surrender. Just presence. And presence, humanity would soon learn, was more terrifying than any weapon. Dr. Alara Miles stood inside the control room of the European Space Observation Network, her coffee untouched as her colleagues yelled over one another, their voices cracking under the weight of hysteria. She didn't yell. She just stared at the live feed from the orbital telescopes, the impossible ship floating above their world like a god no one had prayed to. "Why aren't they saying anything?" someone shouted. "Maybe their communication methods are different," another replied. Alara whispered, "Or maybe they don't think we're worth talking to." Her words were swallowed by the chaos, but deep inside, she felt a truth humanity wasn't ready to face. They were not alone anymore. And in the silence of that colossal ship, she heard the first echo of judgment. Meanwhile, in New York City, millions gathered in the streets, their eyes fixed upward. Some knelt to pray. Some screamed at the sky. Others held their phones high, recording history while their hands trembled. Children pointed at the sky, asking their parents who had come to visit them. Parents had no answers. Religions split overnight, some calling the arrival divine, others branding it demonic. Markets crashed. Nations accused one another of staging the event. But the truth was too large for human politics. For the first time in history, Earth was united in fear. Alara didn't sleep that night, nor the next. No one did. For 3 days, the ship hovered silently, neither moving nor retreating. The world hung in suspension, every breath waiting for a sign. And then, on the dawn of the 4th day, Earth received its first message. It wasn't words. It wasn't a signal through radio or digital transmission. It was a dream. Across the planet, billions of humans experienced the same vision as they slept. A great ocean of stars, a vast bridge of light, and a voice, neither male nor female, echoing inside their minds. "We are here." That was all. When humanity awoke, nothing was the same. The morning after the dream, the world was chaos disguised as order. Politicians wore their best poker faces, assuring the public that everything was under control. Military leaders barked about defensive readiness, though privately they admitted their weapons were like toy guns compared to the size of the vessel above. Priests filled cathedrals, imams filled mosques, rabbis filled synagogues, each declaring their own interpretation of what "we are here" truly meant. But beneath the noise, beneath the arguments and press conferences, an undeniable truth spread like wildfire through the collective human heart. Earth had been noticed. In Geneva, the United Nations convened an emergency summit. Leaders from every nation packed into the Great Chamber, their faces drawn tight, voices clipped, patience worn thin. It was the first time in decades that every seat was filled, as if the very fabric of humanity knew instinctively this moment would decide its future. "We cannot treat this as a war," said Chancellor Leclerc of France, slamming her palm against the polished table. They have not attacked us. They have not even spoken to us in our own languages. They entered our skies uninvited, retorted General Harding of the United States, his voice sharp. If another nation had done that, we'd call it an act of aggression. Another nation is not the same as another species, replied the Japanese Prime Minister calmly. The debate raged for hours. Some demanded preemptive strikes, fearing the silent ship was a sword waiting to fall. Others argued for patience, for diplomacy, for restraint. In the end, no consensus was reached. Humanity was fractured, as always, except this time the audience watching from above was not another human rival, but an intelligence born among the stars. Dr. Alara Miles had been summoned to the summit as one of the world's foremost astrophysicists. She sat quietly during the storm of arguments, observing more than speaking. Finally, when the chairman granted her the floor, she rose. Her voice, calm yet unwavering, cut through the heated air. "You are all arguing about power," she began, eyes scanning the room. "But tell me, what power do we actually have here? We have not been given demands. We have not been given ultimatums. We have been given acknowledgement." A hush fell over the chamber. They didn't show themselves on television. They didn't send radio transmissions. They reached into our dreams. Do you understand what that means? They didn't just say, "We are here." They said, "We are inside you." They have technology or biology, or both, that reaches across the human mind itself. And we dare to believe our missiles will matter? Her words struck like thunder. No one spoke for several moments. Finally, the chairman leaned forward. "Then what do you propose, Dr. Miles?" She exhaled slowly, the weight of history pressing on her chest. "I propose we listen." The world did not listen in the same way. In America, crowds protested, waving signs that read, "We will not kneel." In Europe, thousands filled city squares, lighting candles and singing hymns to welcome what they believed were angels. In Asia, universities scrambled to decipher the symbolic meaning of the star-ocean dream, linking it to ancient myths. Everywhere, humanity fractured into camps, the hopeful, the fearful, the opportunistic. Conspiracy theorists flooded the networks with wild claims that governments had staged the vision, that the aliens were here to enslave, that the end of the world was days away. Fear was profitable, and panic spread faster than truth. And then came the second dream. This time, not everyone received it. Only a select few across the planet awoke with the memory etched into their minds. Scientists, linguists, artists, children. People who represented humanity not through politics or power, but through curiosity and imagination. Alara was among them. She found herself standing on a vast plain of silver sand beneath two suns. Around her, dozens of other humans flickered in and out, like ghosts caught between worlds. And towering above them all was a figure made of shifting light. No mouth moved, yet its voice pressed gently into their skulls. "You are young. You are loud. You are blind. But you are noticed." The figure's form rippled, becoming a cascade of symbols, numbers, images, mathematical truths that transcended language. The speed of light, the structure of DNA, the spiral of galaxies. And then, a bridge of radiant energy stretching across the dark, beckoning. "Choose," the voice said. "Reach or retreat." And just as suddenly as it began, the vision ended. When Alara awoke in her hotel room in Geneva, her body trembled as if she'd been dragged across a storm. She scrambled for her notebook and began scrawling everything she could remember, the equations, the patterns, the strange geometry of the bridge. Her hands shook, ink blotting the pages, but her mind blazed with a single understanding. They were offering something. Not conquest. Not destruction. A choice. Within hours, she learned that hundreds of others had experienced the same dream, each remembering fragments of the same universal message. News networks called them the Chosen. Governments were both suspicious and terrified, demanding lists of names, demanding control. But the truth was undeniable. The aliens had bypassed kings and presidents, generals and billionaires. They had spoken directly to the dreamers, and humanity had never been more divided. Some screamed that it was a test, others that it was a trap. But for Alara Miles, one truth rose above the noise. The days following the second dream were darker than the ship blotting out the stars. In every nation, governments scrambled to find and detain those who had received the alien vision. They called it protective custody, but the truth was clearer. Fear of the unknown had made prisoners of their own people. Some dreamers disappeared into military facilities. Others were paraded in front of cameras, forced to repeat their fragmented memories until the words lost all meaning. Dr. Alara Miles was not immune. 3 hours after she revealed her notes at a private science briefing, a convoy of black vehicles rolled up to her hotel. Men in suits escorted her away under the pretense of security. She was taken to an underground compound outside Geneva, where she found dozens of other dreamers already gathered, confused, restless, watched by soldiers who seemed as uneasy as their captives. Alara sat at a long table with a handful of scientists and artists from across the globe. A boy no older than 12 sat beside her, his small hands clutched around a sketchbook filled with swirling lines that mirrored the bridge of light they had all seen. "They're afraid of us," Alara murmured, mostly to herself. The boy glanced up at her with sharp, intelligent eyes. "No. They're afraid of what we know." His words lingered in her chest like a weight. Above ground, the world fractured further. In Washington, General Harding announced that any attempt by the aliens to interfere with Earth's sovereignty would be treated as hostile action. Fleets were mobilized, satellites weaponized, nuclear arsenals primed. The ship in the sky remained silent, indifferent, as though humanity's rage was the tantrum of a child pounding its fists against a stone wall. In Beijing, the government called for calm and patience, urging other nations not to provoke the unknown. But behind closed doors, they too dissected the dream, running simulations, searching for hidden codes. Religious leaders clashed violently. Some declared the dreamers to be prophets, chosen to guide humanity into a new age. Others accused them of being deceivers, corrupted by alien lies. Riots broke out in cities where dreamers were hidden from public view. Blood spilled not from alien weapons, but from human hands. Inside the compound, Alara was interrogated daily. "What did they tell you?" demanded Colonel Weiss, his eyes sharp, his patience razor-thin. "They didn't tell me. They showed me," she replied for the 100th time. "And this bridge, what does it mean?" Alara closed her eyes, recalling the shimmering arc of light stretching across the void. "It's not a place. It's a path. An invitation." Weiss slammed his fist on the table. "An invitation to what? To surrender? To enslavement? To understanding," Alara whispered. The colonel sneered. "You're letting them manipulate you." But deep down, Alara knew manipulation wasn't the right word. The dream hadn't bent her will, it had expanded it. For the first time in her life, she felt as if she were standing at the edge of something vast, something terrifyingly beautiful. One night, unable to sleep in her cell, Alara was startled awake by a soft humming vibration in her skull. It wasn't sound, not exactly, more like thought turned into music. She pressed her palms against her temples as images flashed across her mind. The silver sands, the twin suns, the figure of light. This time, the message was private. Fear divides you. Choice unites you. Decide. The hum faded, leaving her trembling in the dark. She knew then that the aliens were not limited to shared visions. They could reach individuals directly. And she realized something even more dangerous. If governments discovered that, they would stop at nothing to control or destroy the dreamers. The next morning, the boy with the sketchbook was gone. Soldiers had taken him in the night. None of the dreamers were told why. None of them saw him again. Whispers spread like wildfire. Some claimed he had drawn something the military didn't want others to see. Others said he had been transferred to another facility. Alara suspected the truth was worse. Meanwhile, ordinary people grew restless. A movement began online, calling itself The Reach. Their manifesto was simple: the aliens have offered us a bridge. We must take it before fear destroys us. Members marched in the streets, carrying lanterns at night to mimic the bridge of light they believed awaited humanity. Governments branded them traitors. Police cracked down on their gatherings. But the movement grew, fed by desperation and hope, two forces more powerful than any weapon. Ilera watched the world unravel from her cell, her only connection to the outside a smuggled radio another dreamer had hidden away. Each broadcast brought worse news: bombings, riots, governments collapsing under the weight of fear. And through it all, the alien ship floated silently above, watching, waiting. On the 12th day after the second dream, the silence broke again. Not through the skies, not through radio waves, but through every screen on Earth. Phones, televisions, billboards, laptops. All at once, the blackness of the alien vessel filled the displays. Then the same voice that had entered humanity's dreams echoed aloud, vibrating not through speakers, but inside bone and marrow. Decide. And then the screens went dark. The message was clear. The choice was no longer just for the dreamers. It was for everyone. The single word, decide, echoed across Earth like a bell tolling for the end of an age. For the first time, every human being had heard the same voice without sleep or dream. There was no denying it, no dismissing it as hallucination or propaganda. The aliens had bypassed governments, borders, and even consciousness itself. Their ultimatum was now universal. But no one knew what decision was being demanded. Within hours, the world fractured into louder, sharper divisions. In Washington, generals pounded tables, urging immediate retaliation before the aliens could impose whatever fate they had planned. "This is psychological warfare," General Harding barked in a closed-door briefing. "They're softening us, making us doubt ourselves. If we don't act now, we won't get the chance later." In Beijing, leaders counseled patience. They have not fired a weapon. They have not demanded our surrender. If this were conquest, it would already be over. This is something else. In Europe, Chancellor Leclerc addressed her people in a live broadcast. Her words trembled with both fear and defiance. "We must not allow terror to strip us of reason. The aliens are powerful, yes, but their message suggests choice. If we allow fear to decide for us, then we have already surrendered." The streets boiled with conflicting chants: fight back. On one corner, reach across the stars. On another, the movement calling itself the Reach swelled in numbers, their lantern-lit marches illuminating cities across continents. But so too did militarist factions, armed militias preparing to resist what they believed was an alien invasion disguised as diplomacy. Humanity was no longer merely divided. It was at war with itself. Inside the Geneva compound, Dr. Ilera Miles and the other dreamers watched the chaos unfold on monitored screens. Tension inside the facility grew unbearable. Soldiers eyed the dreamers with suspicion, as if they might suddenly sprout alien limbs. The dreamers whispered among themselves, trading fragments of visions, searching for clues. One evening, Ilera confronted Colonel Weiss after another grueling interrogation. "You think you can control this," she said, her voice sharp with exhaustion. "But you can't. They didn't choose presidents or generals. They chose us. Why do you think that is?" Weiss narrowed his eyes. "Because you're gullible enough to believe their lies." "No," Ilera said, leaning forward. "Because we aren't blinded by power. Because we still know how to wonder." The colonel's silence was answer enough. On the 15th day, the aliens spoke again. This time, there was no dream, no hijacking of screens. Instead, the ship itself changed. For the first time since it appeared, the colossal vessel moved. It rotated slowly, deliberately, until a section of its surface split open, like the iris of an eye. From within, a beam of golden light descended toward Earth, stopping high above the clouds, suspended like a pillar between heaven and ground. Scientists scrambled to analyze it. Theories flew like sparks. Was it a weapon? A gateway? A warning? And then came the voice, resonant and final. 7 days. No elaboration. No mercy. Just a deadline. The announcement hit humanity like a tidal wave. In New York, 500,000 people flooded Times Square, some kneeling in prayer beneath the glowing column of light, others screaming in panic that the end was near. In Moscow, riots broke out as citizens demanded their leaders reveal what they knew. In deserts, mountains, and small forgotten villages, people looked up at the sky and wondered if their species had just been handed its final exam. Alara felt the weight of those words pressing into her bones. 7 days. A week to decide the future of a species. A week to overcome centuries of division and fear. A week to prove humanity was worthy of whatever lay beyond the Bridge of Light. She began gathering the other dreamers inside the compound. Artists, children, scientists, poets. They whispered in the corners of their cells, trading ideas and fragments of visions. Together, they pieced together what they could. It's not destruction, one of the artists argued. The bridge is symbolic. It's passage. Transformation. They're asking us to step into the unknown, said a linguist. That's why they chose us. We're the ones who imagine, who create, who dare. Alara nodded. But we can't do it alone. Humanity has to come together, or not at all. The next night, another private vision came to her in sleep. She stood once more on the silver sands beneath twin suns. The figure of light towered before her, shifting like 1,000 stars bound into human form. What happens if we refuse? She asked. The figure did not answer in words but in images. Earth as seen from orbit, small and fragile, swallowed slowly by darkness until no stars remained. She shivered. Extinction. No, the voice finally whispered. Isolation. Forever. The images vanished, leaving her gasping awake, drenched in sweat. She understood then. The choice was not life or death. It was stagnation or transcendence. Stay in the cage of Earth forever, or cross the bridge into something unimaginable. By the 20th day since the ship's arrival, humanity teetered on the brink. Militaries prepared for war. Movements like the Reach demanded unity and acceptance of the alien invitation. Governments struggled to hold control as ordinary people began to act on their own, planning pilgrimages to the site of the Golden Pillar. And above it all, the alien vessel remained silent, its iris of light staring down at the world like an unblinking eye. The countdown had begun. 7 days to decide the fate of humanity. And humanity was not ready. The world unraveled as the countdown began. Each day closer to the 7th was a new descent into chaos. Governments, already cracking under pressure, began tearing themselves apart. Armies clashed with protesters, cities burned, and every street hummed with the same unspoken terror. What happens when the clock runs out? The golden pillar of light still hung in the sky, unmoving, untouchable. Some called it salvation, others a lure into annihilation. Pilgrims tried to reach it, gathering in caravans that trekked across continents. They filled highways with lanterns, their chants echoing through the night. Cross the bridge. Choose the stars. But soldiers blocked them, fearing mass hysteria. Clashes turned bloody. Images of broken bodies beneath the glow of the pillar flooded the news. And yet, more kept coming. Inside the Geneva compound, Dr. Alara Miles sat at a table covered in sketches, equations, and fragments of alien geometry scrawled by the dreamers. Every scrap was a piece of a puzzle humanity barely understood. The bridge was no simple path, it was a construct, a design, something waiting to be unlocked. Alara pressed her fingers against the drawings. Her head throbbed with memory, the echo of the figure's voice whispering beside. We have to reach it, she whispered. Across from her, the linguist shook his head. Even if we knew how, we'll never get out of here. They don't see us as voices, they see us as weapons. If we move, they'll shoot us before we reach the pillar. They're afraid of us because we're the ones who understand, Alara said. That's why we must go. The governments won't make this decision. They'll stall, they'll fight, they'll destroy each other. The dreamers were chosen for a reason. If we don't act, humanity loses its only chance. Her words settled into silence. Fear filled the room, but beneath it burned a fragile spark of hope. The next night, Elara made her choice. She waited until the compound's lights dimmed, until soldiers grew lazy in their rotations. Slipping into the shadows, she moved through corridors she had memorized over weeks of captivity. In her pocket was a tiny piece of contraband, a keycard smuggled by a sympathetic guard who whispered to her once, "If you really believe in this, run." She found the linguist, the artist, and 2 children among the dreamers who had shared her visions most vividly. Together, they slipped into the cold night, hearts pounding, alarms waiting to catch them at every turn. But the alarms never sounded. The ship above was watching, and somehow she felt it was guiding. By dawn, they had vanished into the chaos of a world collapsing under its own fear. The highways were clogged with pilgrims, militia groups, and armored convoys. Nations had begun turning their weapons not toward the sky, but toward one another, blaming rivals for their own failures. In the Middle East, war flared again. In Africa, millions marched toward the coastlines, hoping to see the pillar reflected in the sea before the end. In America, states threatened to secede as the government fractured under martial law. Everywhere, people were moving, and Elara moved among them, the dreamers hidden in the tide of humanity. On the 4th day of the countdown, another vision struck them. This time it came not in sleep, but in waking. As Elara stood on a ridge overlooking the glowing column, her sight fractured, the world folding into impossible shapes. The silver sands, the twin suns, the figure of light. It was there again. But this time, its form trembled. Its voice carried urgency. Many voices. Too loud. Too broken. You carry choice. Alara's knees buckled. She clutched her head, hearing whispers like a storm of bees, billions of human minds colliding in fear, rage, and prayer. The figure reached out, extending a hand of light, bridge quickening. And then the vision ended. She gasped awake, knowing what it meant. The invitation was not eternal. If humanity did not act, the bridge would collapse. The chance would be lost. That night, Elara told the others, "It's not just a deadline. It's a door. And it's closing." The artist clenched his fists. "Then we have to reach it, no matter what." The children said nothing, but their wide eyes shone with a determination far older than their years. Elara knew what they had to do: cross the chaos, break through the military cordons, and step into the pillar of light before it vanished. But the world had grown more dangerous. Militaries no longer merely observed the pillar, they ringed it with tanks and drones, convinced the aliens would descend through it to conquer Earth. Anyone who came near was branded a traitor, a collaborator. Pilgrims were mowed down in fields. The blood of believers stained the grass beneath the beam. Elara and her group moved at night, guided by fragments of visions. At every turn, the dreamers seemed to sense where to go, which road to take, which checkpoint would be weakest. It was as though the aliens themselves were threading them through the labyrinth of humanity's collapse. On the 5th day, they came within sight of the cordon. Barbed wires stretched across fields, searchlights cutting the darkness. Soldiers stood in ranks, their rifles pointed outward toward the sea of desperate people pressing forward. Elara crouched low, her breath sharp in the cold air. She counted the children's heartbeats, the rhythm of fear pounding in her own veins. "How do we get through?" whispered the linguist. Alara's answer was simple, though it terrified her. "We walk. Walk. They'll kill us." "They won't," she said, though she wasn't sure why she believed it. "We're meant to cross. They'll know." She stood, pulling the children beside her, and stepped into the light of the search lamps. Shouts erupted. Rifles lifted. Orders were screamed. And then, silence. The soldiers froze, their hands trembling as if invisible fingers had wrapped around their bodies. Some dropped their weapons. Others fell to their knees. A wave of awe, terror, and confusion rippled across the cordon. Elara felt the hum in her skull again, the alien presence pressing gently, parting the way. The barbed wire seemed to shimmer, then dissolved like smoke. She led the dreamers through, step by step, into the killing field that was no longer a trap, but a passage. Behind them, soldiers stared, their faces pale with disbelief. Ahead, the pillar of golden light burned brighter, as though recognizing them. On the sixth day, they reached the base of the beam. It was not solid, nor was it intangible. It rippled like liquid sunlight, its surface alive with symbols too complex to be human. It thrummed with energy that made their bones sing. The children reached out, their fingers brushing the light. It clung to them, wrapping around their hands like a glove of fire and silk. Alara stepped forward, her entire body trembling. This was it, the choice made flesh. Behind them, the world still burned. Gunfire cracked in the distance. Pilgrims shouted prayers. Drones circled like vultures. Humanity was still tearing itself apart. But here, at the threshold, there was silence. And waiting, Alara turned to the dreamers. Tomorrow is the seventh day. If we cross, we do it then. Together. They nodded, fear and hope mingling in their eyes. The bridge had been offered. The deadline was nearly here. The fate of humanity balanced on the edge of dawn. The seventh day dawned blood-red. The sun rose over fields of smoke and fire, its light tangled with the golden pillar that burned brighter than ever, piercing the heavens like a needle through time itself. The air hummed with electricity, a soundless vibration that made the hairs on the back of Alara's neck stand. This was it. Across the globe, billions of people stopped whatever they were doing, fighting, praying, marching, hiding, and turned their eyes to the sky. They all knew, without words or news reports, that the final day had come. At the base of the pillar, Alara stood with a small group of dreamers. Their faces were pale with exhaustion, but their eyes glowed with something stronger than fear. Behind them stretched a sea of humanity, pilgrims who had risked everything to reach this place. Men and women, rich and poor, young and old, they crowded the hills and valleys, their voices a mixture of chants, sobs, and desperate pleas. And encircling them all were the armies of the world. Tanks rumbled into position, missiles aimed at the pillar, drones buzzing like insects in the air. The generals had made their decision. If the aliens demanded Earth's choice, then humanity's answer would be fire. "Do we cross?" the linguist whispered, his voice trembling. Alara stared at the glowing beam. It pulsed as if alive, as if sensing her thoughts. She remembered the words of the figure of light. "Fear divides you. Choice unites you." "Yes," she said. "We cross." A voice boomed across the battlefield. Human, not alien. General Harding's voice, carried by loudspeakers mounted on armored vehicles. "Step away from the beam. Anyone who approaches will be fired upon. This is your final warning." His words sent waves of panic through the crowd. Some pilgrims turned back, their courage broken. Others surged forward, desperate, colliding with the soldiers who tried to hold them back. The air cracked with gunfire, screams piercing the dawn. But the pillar of light remained untouched. Alara stepped forward. Her legs shook, but the hum in her skull grew stronger with every step, guiding her. She felt the alien presence pressing softly into her mind, not forcing, not controlling, but encouraging, inviting. Behind her, the dreamers followed. The artist, the linguist, the children, all of them walking with the quiet dignity of those who understood they carried more than their own lives. They carried humanity's future. Shouts erupted. Rifles leveled. A drone locked its sights on them. And then the impossible happened. The rifles jammed. The drone sputtered, then fell from the sky like a stone. Soldiers collapsed to their knees, clutching their heads as if struck by an invisible wave. The air shimmered, and for a heartbeat, Alara felt it, the aliens themselves intervening. The path was open. The pilgrims saw it too. Cries rose from the crowd. The bridge. The bridge is opening. A surge of bodies rushed forward, breaking through the cordons. Soldiers tried to hold them back, but their weapons betrayed them, locking, failing, as though the laws of physics themselves bent around the pillar. Thousands poured toward the light. Alara and the dreamers reached the base. The pillar loomed above them, alive with shifting patterns that danced like constellations. Its warmth bathed their faces, neither burning nor blinding, but filling them with a strange calm of standing at the edge of something eternal. And then the voice came again, for the last time. Decide. But this time, it was not spoken into their minds. It thundered through the air, through the earth, through the marrow of every human bone. Billions heard it, and billions understood. The choice was not for a few. It was for all. Chaos erupted. Half the pilgrims screamed in joy, racing forward to step into the light. The other half recoiled in terror, convinced it was a trap. Armies panicked, commanders shouting contradictory orders. Missiles launched skyward, streaking toward the alien vessel. The sky split open. The ship, silent for weeks, stirred. Its surface rippled with light, absorbing the incoming missiles as if they were raindrops against an ocean. No retaliation came. No destruction. Only silence. Alara turned to the dreamers. This is it. If we don't cross now, the chance is gone. The children nodded. The artist clutched his sketches. The linguist whispered a prayer in no language anyone had ever spoken. Together, they stepped into the beam. It was like dissolving. The world of smoke and war vanished in an instant. The ground beneath her feet was gone, replaced by silver sand stretching beneath twin suns. The sky blazed with stars, brighter than she had ever seen. And before them stood the figure of light, no longer shifting, but solid, radiant, vast beyond comprehension. You chose, it said. Alara trembled. Not all of us. Humanity is still divided. The figure's form rippled. One step is enough. Choice begins with one. Behind her, more figures appeared, pilgrims, soldiers, dreamers, flickering into existence as they entered the pillar. Some wept. Some knelt. Some simply stared in awe. The bridge had opened. Back on Earth, those who had refused to enter watched in despair as the beam began to flicker, the doorway narrowing. Panic spread. Some hurled themselves toward the light too late, their bodies collapsing against the shrinking glow. Others turned away, clutching their families, unwilling to leave the world they knew. And above it all, the alien ship pulsed once, twice, then went dark. The countdown was over. Alara stood on the silver sands, staring at the vast bridge of light stretching into the infinite cosmos. She felt the weight of humanity at her back, the ones who had crossed, and the ones who never would. The figure of light raised its hand. Now you begin. The bridge flared, dazzling and endless. And humanity stepped forward. The silver sands stretched endlessly, glowing softly under the light of twin suns. It was not Earth, not any world known to maps or telescopes, but something beyond comprehension. The sky pulsed with nebulae, rivers of color that shifted like living paint across the heavens. And far ahead, arching across the firmament, was the Bridge of Light. It was not a bridge of stone or steel, but of pure energy, threads of galaxies, woven together into a path that reached into infinity. Every step upon it hummed with resonance, like walking across the strings of the universe itself. Alara took a breath, her chest trembling. She looked back at those who had come through. The dreamers, the pilgrims, the soldiers who had cast down their guns, even the children who had never stopped believing in wonder. Their eyes reflected the glow, wide with awe. Behind them, the shimmering portal to Earth flickered smaller and smaller until it was a distant spark, then nothing at all. The choice was sealed. The figure of light walked before them, its presence neither towering nor small, neither male nor female, but vast. Its voice, when it came, was softer now, like a teacher speaking not to command, but to guide. You have stepped across the threshold. You are no longer bound to the cage of one world. This is not the end. This is the beginning. A murmur rose among the humans. Beginning of what? Asked the linguist, his voice hushed but steady. The being turned, its form pulsing like a star. The beginning of becoming more. The path you feared was not conquest, but communion. For ages, we watched. Some among you burned worlds with fire. Others lifted each other with love. We waited until you could decide, not as one species, but as individuals willing to choose. Alara's throat tightened. But those left behind? The being's light dimmed, as though with sorrow. Every world must choose its own step. Some will rise. Some will remain. Choice is the seed of freedom. But you, its glow brightened, enveloping them. You have chosen to walk. The bridge stirred. Far in the distance, other lights appeared, vast shapes of alien forms stepping onto their own paths, creatures unlike anything human eyes had ever seen. Some shimmered like living oceans, some stretched like shadows with wings of flame, some floated as translucent orbs. Different, alien, yet all walking toward the same horizon. The artist gasped, his sketchbook falling from his hands. It's not just us. No, the being said. The bridge is for all who dare. You are not alone. You were never alone. Alara felt tears burn her eyes. For so long, humanity had gazed at the stars, wondering if it was isolated, abandoned in the cold. Now the truth was before them, a bridge where countless civilizations converged, each carrying the weight of their own choices, each stepping into something greater than themselves. The children laughed, their fear gone, racing ahead across the glowing path. Their voices echoed, clear and bright, carrying farther than sound had any right to. It was as if the bridge itself celebrated them. The soldiers followed slowly, laying down the burden of war with each step. The pilgrims sang, voices trembling, songs mixing languages into something universal. And the dreamers, those who had always believed in more, walked with quiet smiles, their faith vindicated. Alara looked at the being one last time. Why us? Why now? The figure pulsed, brighter than the sun's. Because the universe does not wait for the perfect moment. It waits for courage. And courage came from you. It raised its hand, pointing toward the endless horizon where light and darkness met. Walk, children of Earth. Walk, and discover not what you feared, but what you were always meant to become. The bridge expanded before them, infinite, eternal. Alara took the first step. The silver sands dissolved beneath her, replaced by stars swirling like living rivers. She felt no weight, no fear, only the vast embrace of something larger than life, larger than death. She heard the voices of humanity at her back, laughter, songs, cries of awe. She heard the murmur of countless alien travelers, each step weaving new threads into the cosmic tapestry. And above it all, she heard the hum of the bridge itself, carrying the rhythm of creation. The horizon blazed. Alara smiled, not for herself, but for all of them, for the dreamers, the children, the ones who dared to walk into the unknown. Humanity had crossed the threshold. Humanity had chosen wonder over fear. And in that choice, they were no longer just human. They were part of something greater. The bridge of light shone brighter, brighter still, until it became indistinguishable from the dawn itself. And as the last spark of Earth faded behind them, a single truth echoed across the cosmos. This is not the end of humanity. This is its first true beginning.